Hi, Misha here, and I am a day late giving you a black box. I've been trying to do these on Fridays, but my Friday yesterday was a little busy, and by the time it was over, actually the truth is I recorded a short black box at the end of the day, but the old camera that I use for these black boxes didn't pick up the sound. I don't think it was the mic's fault, I think it was camera. And frankly, when I recorded it, I was extremely tired anyway, so just trying to re-record it today. One moment, I'll get a drink of water. I always have been more of a fan of water or tea. Never really cared much for sody pops, colas, whatever. It's kind of funny how that in the north regions, the Yankee states, sodas are called one thing, and then in the southern states, they're called another. Hey, for once, I'm actually not recording during night. Although it is kind of raining out. Kind of a weird day weather-wise. Kind of half stormy, rainy, half sunny, hot. So, what's been going on here? Honestly, the last week's been pretty tame. Nothing terribly great or terribly bad, which is good. I am kind of ready for the dog days of summer and just kind of even boredness. The first part of 2021 was exciting enough. One thing I wanted to talk about, finally AT&T is making me obsolete. At the end of 2013 or the very beginning of 2014, I don't recollect right now. I know I had it before we got the new house, and that was August of 2014. I picked up a tough phone. It was Samsung Rugby. I had a couple before it that were the Motorola's that I really liked, and I already really wasn't crazy about going to the Rugby, but truth be told, even though it didn't seem as durable as the Motorola's, it held out for over 7 years. But now AT&T is making me replace it. They say even though it's 4G, it's not 4G enough. So, yeah, I guess that's just where it's going to be. But they sent out a cheap little flip phone, and I guess I'm not gonna roll with that. I'm gonna buy another one of those tough phones, because for what I do for a living and just, you know, my situation, I like a phone that can take a bit of a beating. And funny story, I've been going home to see family as much as I can since my father passed, and we were down having dinner with most of my family, and my sister and her oldest were there, my niece, and I happened to mention, because my niece was kind of sitting across from me at the dining table at the restaurant we were at, that I had a flip phone, and she was amazed. You know, these kids now, they've only ever seen smartphones and tablet types, so to actually see a real working flip phone in the wild, yeah, it was kind of fun. I've actually kind of found it cool and interesting in that retro hipster way. So hey, if I just keep hanging on to flip phones long enough, I'm sure they'll come back into vogue. But I really like them. I have a laptop for, well, laptoping, computering. So when it comes to phones, I just wanted to do phone stuff. And of course the whole being blind thing plays a part too. I like tactile buttons. I don't mind dialing numbers. I actually kind of like the mental, not gymnastics, but mental exercise it takes to remember people's phone numbers. I've often joked that if everyone suddenly lost their phone books tomorrow, me and a few people like me would be the ones that people would be trying to get a hold of, because at least we actually have people's phone numbers in our heads, and I keep them written on a computer file too. Actually, it's a TXT file that I think was initially started in 1998 is the initial date on the file. But I like new tech. I mean, I'm using the new mic right now. I picked up a modern GoPro last year, but I also like old tech if it still works. TXT files and you know, flip phones. Why not? If they work, great. If the new generations offer market improvements, cool beans too. And yeah, I could use a smartphone, I could use a touchscreen, but I would have to buy speech software. And then, unless I wanted the whole world to know what I was doing, which I don't, I'm a rather private person, I would also have to carry around a set of earbuds or some other, you know, small device in my pocket, in addition to a brick phone. And of course the speech itself costs money. It's not free. I think it's around $1,000 to $1,500 for the software for the phone. And then of course paying $1,000 for the phone itself. Yeah, no, it's gonna be about, you know, $2,000, and I just don't see a use. I'd rather put that money into, I don't know, a pre-ban AK or a Polish Burrell. Personal opinion there, but yep. So yeah, they're finally making me trade in my old phone. And now I'm looking at the two tough phones that AT&T is showing. One's a little under 200, the other one's right at 300. So a little bit more than my Rugby, which cost me $100. But if they also last 4 or 5 years, cool. I'm fine with that. Now on to another thing I wanted to talk about today. Yeah, I wanted to talk about the next Q&A. Patreon questions that we answer for the main Mishaco channel. Also, right this second, I'm going to be feeding cats, so you'll probably hear that. As we've already talked about, Jay has got a new job and moved on. As I keep repeating, because I want to make sure there's no misunderstanding. There was no fight, no argument, no nothing. Just, you know, life changes, you know, interests change. So that kind of left me back doing the main channel on my lonesome, and some videos I can more or less do on my own, at least to some extent, muddle through. But one I really don't have an ability to do are the Q&As. It's much more of a, you know, a dialogue between at least two people. I need someone to read the questions, and frankly, it's really boring if I just sit there and answer questions. There needs to be someone to play off of, someone to get opinions from, and whatnot. So for the July Q&A, and what I'm planning on doing, I plan on having kind of a somewhat of a revolving door of people helping out. At least there's been 3 or 4 people in my life that have really offered and even kind of asked about being involved to some extent, including a family member. So, you know, there'll probably be a few different people, a few different faces and whatnot. Im's cat food appearing, and the first one to help me with the Q&A is J-Ro. Now, if you check out the main channel, have probably seen him in passing in a couple of the more recent range clips and footages. And who he is actually, at this point, one of my oldest friends. We met in college. The story of how we met is quite bizarre, and we've known each other ever since. Also, I've referred to someone throughout this channel and the main one as doc or professor that got me into FALs and all that. Well, that's actually J-Ro's father, who was actually out at the most recent cabin trip with us. I don't believe he ended up on camera for anything, although his voice is heard in the background a bit. But he's the guy who got me not only into FALs, but a lot of the bolt actions that kind of influenced me, like, say, for example, the K31. In fact, when I got all those Swiss guns, I called him and said, "It's all your fault," because it starts with a drop and then it becomes a downpour. Anywho, yeah, J-Ro offered to help. He's actually a professional who has been into video editing, and he's been, you know, professionally employed by actually a couple of gun companies as well as other companies to do video editing. So yeah, he's not a fly-by-nighter. And even going back to university days, that was always his passion. We actually started off, he was in the engineering department, and I was in poli-sci. Well, he helped me with research stuff. Back in the dark ages when I was in university, it was books and libraries and the interlibrary loan program stuff. So obviously I had to have someone read the books to me and so on and so forth. And so he helped me with that through university, and he actually switched over to poli-sci, which was my department, as well as history. And yeah, so we even worked even closer together. In fact, we would go out to the cabin to get our like term papers and even theses done out there, because no cell phones, no distractions, and it was just a good place to work. Basically, our routine out there was work on papers throughout the day, and then reward ourselves by cooking dinner and drinking copious amounts of vodka at night, and then get up and do it all over again. I mean, we'd stay out there for a week or more, and you know, good times. At least when you're stressed out over doing papers, being able to immediately walk outdoors and be in the forest or throw a line into the fishing pond is it's a great, almost instant stress reliever. Anywho, how we met. I guess I was it was the starting day of my junior year of college. Now, I had been dating a girl that I loosely met when I was a senior in high school. Well, we got together when I was a freshman in college, and she was a year younger, so she was still in high school. Well, when she graduated, which would have been the end of my freshman year, she moved in with me. We got an apartment, and we lived together my sophomore year. And I'm trying to think how that worked time-wise. Yeah, it was about a year and a half. And then we broke up. It was pretty mutual. We realized quite quickly that just weren't compatible. Actually, and it went on to be more or less friends later on. But she left right before school started, which would have been August. And now, because I'm going to class, no big deal. Got my dog, which was a golden retriever at the time. So, you know, the thing, walking across campus, getting used to the new classes. And I hear someone yelling at me, and it's a girl. So she, like, was in one of my classes, I believe, and was following me out of the class and kind of got behind me because I'm a pretty quick walker. And she was yelling at me, wait. So I stopped, and she stopped me and was asking some questions, pretty routine stuff, probably about this and that. And at that time, the way the university worked, if I needed like a note taker or some kind of help with writing down what was on the board in classes, this was during the days of actual physical boards, I had to basically find someone in the class willing to help me out, get me notes, that kind of thing. And then the university would give them a small payment. It was like $7 an hour back then, you know, and just whatever to help them help me. And so she was talking with me and seemed a little different, but, you know, nice enough. And so I was like, well, maybe she'd be a good candidate to help me get the, like, board notes down, everything like that. So, yeah, but she was really talking with me and everything. And here I'm thinking, I hope she's not coming on to me. Because I just broke up with someone that I've been with 2 years, which, you know, as an adult, 2 years seems brief. But when you're 18 to 20, 2 years is basically your entire adult life. So she asked me to come over to her apartment for lunch. And, you know, cafeteria food at a university, not awesome. Paying the exorbitant prices at the food court, also not awesome. So free lunch, fuck yeah. But I was also thinking, I'm gonna have to make it clear that I'm not in the market. And so she takes me to her apartment, which is not far from campus. We just walk there, just, you know, student apartments. And we come in the door, and then she says, hell yeah, and, you know, meet my boyfriend, J-Ro. Instantly, I was like, oh, thank God. And, you know, the fact that she was introducing us so freely meant that she wasn't trying to do anything, that it was just, and I learned later, she was just that way. She was kind of one of those inadvertently flirty people that was just open and bubbly to everyone. So right then and there, we realized we had a lot in common as far as mutual interest. We like a lot of the same music. We both like firearms. We come from kind of the same upper middle class background, I guess you would say, with his dad being a professor and my dad owning a small business, you know, just kind of in that working class, you know, made it bootstraps type families. Same age and everything. Yeah, and so the three of us, you know, usually two guys and a girl hanging out and everything gets weird, but it never did with us because I wasn't interested in her. He wasn't threatening. It worked, you know. And then we, you know, kind of mingled friend groups a bit, and so they ended up becoming a couple of my closest friends. Really, until those two broke up years later, nothing to do with me. And then when they did, I kind of kept him as a friend, and she moved out anyway. And again, no hard feelings. It was just one of those mutual things, different positions in life. And he and I stayed in touch for, good grief, upwards of 10 years after got out of college, out of university. You know, on and off. I'd move out, he'd move out. We'd kind of go our own ways. Never lived together, but, you know, lived pretty close and hung out often, and had a lot of stories together and a lot of crazy adventures, some good, some insane. And we kind of lost touch a few years ago. You know, just life. I was moving, starting the business going. He'd still come and visit once or twice a year. But yeah, I kind of lost touch. Well, I think the last time I had seen him in person, although we chatted on the phone, you know, every 4 or 5 months, was towards the end of 2016. Well, when my father passed, I was calling a few people that he, you know, friends that knew him growing up and had been in his place, and he knew my father quite well, being at his cabin often, and, you know, he would come crash at my folks' house and home, because we would house sit a lot. They'd like to go places, but they always had animals, so that was a great way for us to have a house away from home and, you know, chill and, okay, yeah, probably party a bit, but, you know, we'd house sit, and it was all well, and they knew him, and he drove me around a lot, so when, you know, since I can't drive, then my folks always got to know my friends who were always up to give me a lift, and he was one of those. So out of respect to everyone, I called him up and said, hey, you know, he's passed. He always liked you. I don't expect you to come to the funeral because you're, you know, hours away, but I just wanted to let you know, and to let you know that you're welcome and invited if you want. And he said, well, I'll see if I can get off work, because it was a Monday. And I thought, yeah, no problem. And I figured that was a cordiality thing, you know, it's just what you do. Well, that Sunday he calls me and says, yeah, I was able to get off work. I'll drive down. And this is, from my hometown to where he works, is a couple-hour drive. So you're talking no less than 3.5 hours round trip, 4 hours with any kind of stoppage. But yeah, he came down for the funeral, and we kind of caught back up, and that meant a lot to me. And he wasn't the only one. I had actually an even older friend that drove me down to the thing, who I met when I was 8. So, you know, it was good to have a couple of my very long time friends who, you know me well and knew my father. And since then, we just kind of have reconnected, and he's been, you know, around. And it was kind of fortuitous because that was about the same time that Jay got his new job. So, you know, cycles around. That's why I'm not really, I mean, Jay could very well pop back in a couple of years when life is more conducive to it. That's kind of how friends are. You know, it's just, you know, they come in our lives based on what's kind of convenient. And I always like to keep the door open. And so he's been helping with some videos. We've gone out shooting 2 or 3 times, which is something we always used to do, including his dad, like I said, who kind of got me into guns. And this most recent trip, yeah, his dad came out, and that was a lot of fun. Kind of, you know, with that stuff, I told my wife before the first trip, I said, it's either going to be just like old times, like no time had passed at all. It'd probably been about 10 years since we'd shot together at this point, or it's going to be awkward as hell. And thank goodness it was the former. It just slipped right into the old grooves, the old kind of jokes and in-jokes and sayings, and even like his dad remembered some of the guns, like the PS90 that I had brought out eons ago and shot. He remembered it and shot it and everything, and that was that was a fun thing. So he helped me do the Q&A, which we recorded yesterday. He's editing it right now, so it'll probably take a little bit because he's kind of actually put some spit and polish on it. And the inside jokes and everything, I'm sure most people won't get them, but it was kind of fun. Like for one time in the video, he says, AK-47s for everyone. And I internally and probably externally groaned because another mutual friend of ours, at least a person in the friend group, used to say that all the frickin' time when we would go shooting and invite him. And yeah, it's one of those things, either you had to tell him to shut up or just laugh along with it, and we just laughed. But it was from some video game that friend loved to play. I think it was one of the Command and Conquers. And just little inside things like that, and things that I'd kind of forgotten, to be honest with you. And that's what's kind of fun. But also progressing forward, I realize that we still have much of the same music taste, and he's obviously still into firearms. In fact, I got into the firearms. Come to think of it, when I get into something, he tends to follow me. But both being in the firearms business in kind of different areas, but still attached businesses. So with that, it will be interesting to see the wider channel, the Mishaco channel's response to having someone other than Jay for the Q&As. I don't know if it'll always be J-Ro, probably not all the time. Although if people like him, then maybe I'll try to make an effort. But there's also a really good friend's son is wanting to get into audio video, and so he's been helping me out too behind the camera. He's appeared once or twice in range clips, but he might end up doing a Q&A with as well. Who knows? And again, I might have a couple of my family members get involved because yeah, they like guns too. In fact, my brother was out at the last cabin trip, but declined to appear on camera at this time. A lot of people are kind of camera shy, and I get that. Before this whole YouTube thing got going hardcore, I was nervous as hell about being on camera too, so I get it. But you get over it. It's kind of how life is. So that's the plans. Kind of working on a few video concepts for the main channel. Got a few model reviews I'd like to do for this one, although I might be a little quiet in July. I've got a lot of projects to kind of get going. The anniversary video for the main channel is going to take up a lot of my time organizing. So if I'm a little bit quiet for the next couple of weeks, apologies for that. It's just, needs must type situation. But yeah, still hanging out, still doing good. I really do hope that life has kind of just gotten to that boringly predictable stage at this point. I'm tired of what we have. In fact, one of the jokes that J-Ro made yesterday that was extremely apt, talking about 2021 when we were doing the Q&A, he said, he downloaded the free 7-day trial for 2021 and was kind of not impressed and thinking he would just not upgrade and stick with the previous version. And it took me a second, but I realized, yeah, if you think about the first 7 days of 2021, I get what he was saying, where he was coming from. But then he added that he was glad he stuck with it because he too, things have gotten better since March and April. Hopefully there's still a continuing upward trend. That doesn't mean it's perfect, but so far the first half of 2021 has been better than what 2020 gave us. So I'm not counting my chickens. Also, yeah, the government released the UAP, the UFO report. That was still cool, I think. And, well, the ATF hasn't blocked imports, and Biden hasn't successfully nominated an ATF director, so maybe we won't get old Chippy. Wouldn't that be great? But yeah, that's my black box for today. I need to get out and do a few videos. I need to call a customer, and I need to do some exciting laundry. And there are cats still running around me. I thought maybe feeding them would help. But yeah, appreciate it all, and I will try to put some model videos or just other random things up as best I can. But as I said a minute ago, if I'm a little light on the content this month, just know it's just because I'm working up for something kind of big on the main channel, and I'm having to do a bit of double duty over there too. So doing my best, guys. I sincerely appreciate it. Feel free to comment as you always do, and if you could, please like, share, and subscribe. This is Misha. Catch you very soon. Next time.